Well, good evening, everyone. It's always great to hear people's voices and familiar voices and faces that we haven't seen for a while now at FC, but of course, it's always a pleasure to have everyone joining us. Thank you so much for coming this evening to listen to a few of our alumni from FCE. My name is Josue, and I'm a Senior Program Manager for the College Success Program. And it is my distinct honor to introduce today's moderator. But before that, just some housekeeping items for us. Tonight's event will be recorded. We also want to let all our guests know if you can please mute your microphones just to minimize any type of background noises or sounds that may come up. There will also be a time towards the end of the event for a Q&A from all of our guests. So please feel free to write your questions down in the chat box, and we'll be funneling those questions over to Shelley to read them out to our panelists. And now it's my distinct honor to introduce you all to Shelley, our moderator for this evening. Shelley Willig is the head of education practice at Great Bird Foundation, and she's also currently a board member for FCE. But above that as well, Shelley has been a volunteer for almost 10 years with FCE, and it has been my distinct honor working alongside her with our seniors during our senior advisory program as she volunteers as a senior advisor. And also Shelley has been my co-chaperone for numerous years when we go to our out-of-state college tour. So we've traveled to numerous states across the East Coast as well as the Midwest. Without further ado, please help me in welcoming Shelley.
Thanks, Josue. Boy, I don't know how much more I can say about myself. I really appreciate that intro, Josue. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. This is, for what I know, FCE's first bachelor's party, also known as the FCE Alumni Panel. And in just a few minutes, we are going to catch up with 3 of FCE's 130 college graduates. These alumni, Joyce Latu-Fahamokioa, Antwon Malone, Chapman, and Alondra Arias, represent different FCE classes at very different times in FCE's history. And as you can imagine, they've had different journeys in getting to where they are today. But they are very similar in one important way. They have all pursued degrees and careers that support their commitment to serving others, which is a hallmark of an FCE experience. FCE models service to others, and we expect students to serve their communities throughout their lives. So in just a couple of minutes, we will hear about how these 3 amazing alumni are doing just that. In another minute, I'll ask them to introduce themselves, but as Josue said, we will be I have some prepared questions for our panelists, and then after that, we really would appreciate hearing from you, and we will have time to have each of our panelists address your questions. So here we go. Joyce. Joyce is the representative of FCE's class of 2000. And just 4 years after that, in 2004, Joyce earned her bachelor's degree from Dominican University of California. Joyce, will you spend a couple minutes telling us more about you?
Thank you so much, Shelley. Like Shelley said, my name is Joyce Fahamokioa, and I was born and raised in East Palo Alto and went to school through the voluntary transfer program and attended schools in Palo Alto, graduating from Pali, go Vikings. And after that, went on to get a bachelor's in psychology from Dominican University. After college, came back to East Palo Alto and really was just trying to find where my passion really lied and what I wanted to do, and found my way back to FCE, where I started as a high school student. FCE really supported me in navigating the higher education system. And so coming back to the community and coming back to FCE really supported me in figuring out what it was that I wanted to do. Long story short, I enjoyed working at FCE with students that were from the community, families from the community who were going through similar things that I went through as a student. And once I had children of my own, I think one of the things that I heard from FCE often was, we're starting with students younger, as we were thinking about at that time going through a strategic plan. Do we go deeper? Or do we expand and bring on more students? And one of the things that really stood out to me was, what would it look like if we started with students younger? We see what the benefits are at this point in time, but what would it look like if we started younger? And at that time, I had my first child, and really that question really stuck with me. And from there, found myself working with a few other nonprofits in East Palo Alto, supporting students in middle school and elementary school. And then a few years ago, I had two more children and found my way to the primary school where I'm currently at, and am the manager of our parent wellness program there. Again, continuing to support parents and in navigating not just the school system, but supporting them in determining what are their goals, what would they like to do, and their own wellness in support of their children's wellness. So that's a little bit about me.
Great.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Joyce. Glad you're here. And let's move on to Antwon Malone Chapman. Antoine is representing FCE's class of 2010. He graduated 4 years after that from Whittier College with his bachelor's degree. And just 3 years after that, he graduated with his MSW at Santa Clara University. Antoine, thanks for being here tonight. Will you say a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm also a native from East Palo Alto, born and raised there until college. As she said, I went to Whittier College in LA. And then after that, I actually spent a few years just working and waiting almost to get into Santa Clara. So the first year I was waitlisted, and I actually applied 2 more times and wrote 2 other statements of purposes, basically to try to strengthen my application to get into Santa Clara. And then the next year I was accepted to Santa Clara, but I had accepted a job at Beyond 12, where I was working as a college coach with college students. And so I did that for about a year before coming back, and then going to school at Santa Clara. So I recently graduated from Santa Clara in 2019 with a MFT as my degree, so to be a marriage and family therapist. And over the past 5 years, I've been working with Santa Clara County and different nonprofits right now with Catholic Charities, supporting youth and young adults who have substance use and mental health issues, and supporting right now youth and young adults who are on juvenile probation or are associated with that. And I'm really happy to be here. It's awesome to see everybody. It's awesome to be on this panel with Joyce. I think one of the first things that let me know and kind of inspired me to be in a position where I can give back was actually talking to Joyce and sharing my appreciation with her as my brother and I got accepted to college. And I said, how do I thank you for this? And I don't know if she remembers this, but she said, do the work, give back. And whatever way you can, give back. And that stuck with me for sure. So I'm really, really excited and happy to be here.
Great. Thanks so much for being here, Antoine. And then there's Alondra Arias. Alondra is our youngest on this panel, but she represents the FCE class of 2014. And little story about Alondra. Several years ago, in her freshman year of college, I had the distinct honor of being guided around Cornell College by Alondra. And I remember driving out to meet you, Alondra, and thinking, how on earth does this woman from East Palo Alto making it in Iowa? And we were scheduled to meet outside the admission office, and it was a blustery 20 degrees, maybe it was 20 degrees. It was freezing and I had my parka on, and you skipped up in a skirt and shirt sleeves and said, hey, do you want to go to coffee? And I thought, she's going to make it just fine. So thank you for that tour. It was fantastic and I'll never forget it. Alondra earned her bachelor's from Cornell College, as we said, in 2018, and has moved on to University of Denver to earn her master's in social work. Alondra, you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah, for a long time, I will say I refused to be like, I accepted I was living in the Midwest. So I wouldn't buy a winter coat. I suffered. I put myself through a lot. But I'm also an East Palo Alto native, and I also went to Palo Alto schools. I graduated Pali and Foothill Middle College for high school. And then I went to Cornell and I got a double major in studio art and sociology before deciding that I wanted to get my master's in social work. I'm currently a victim advocate at the Colorado Organization for Victim Assistance. So I'm working primarily with victims, which is not a field that I ever thought I was going to go towards, but here we are, and I really enjoy it. I'm really passionate about community. I believe in the power of it, and I think a big part of it is thanks to FCE, who really helped me and nagged me every time I did something I wasn't supposed to. And along the way, I always had a community that guided me, and I'm very thankful for that. And that inspired me to do the same, to always want to give back and to be a part of somebody's community, and to that comfort that comes with knowing that your community will always be there to support you.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to just move into our questions. And I'm going to start with Joyce. You grew up in East Palo Alto and you're still there. You work at the primary school. So you have deep, deep knowledge of EPA, lived experience there and deep knowledge of EPA. What do you think is the value that FCE brings to community?
So many things. Where do I start? I think, as a parent and in the work that I'm doing right now, one of the things that I realized that FCE taught me at a young age, and I think is one of the biggest things that we could teach our young people and our families right now, is we meet people where they're at. FCE really meets people where they're at, whether it's the student, whether it's the parent. And what I mean by that is, I remember many, many times going through applications of students and families who are applying to FCE, who we didn't just look at as an applicant and as a number, but we really looked at them as an individual and as a person, and said, okay, well, maybe they're missing this thing, but how do we work with them? We see the potential. We see where they're at, and we see where they can move to. And so really seeing people for who they are, and seeing the potential that they bring to the table, to the community, and just working with them as a whole family.
Wow, I can really appreciate that. And I've actually seen that exact philosophy play out in volunteers with FCE. So a volunteer might start in a particular place and show a distinct strength in another place, and be able to help in different ways. So appreciate that. Okay, Antoine, I'd like to ask you a question. You said you were a Beyond 12 college coach before you earned your master's, and now you work for Catholic Charities. How do you think FCE can help our young students prepare emotionally for life at college, where many of them continue to be in an underrepresented community?
Yeah, I think the first thing that's important to do for the students who are embarking on that journey of going to college, oftentimes, FCE students are first generation college students. And so there's not a lot of knowledge of what it's going to be like when they get there. And I think it's important to inform the students of the things that they may face. So emotionally, but also socially, spiritually, there's a whole freshman 15, right? So there's physical changes, and you're still developing. A lot of times when you're going to college straight from high school, right, you're 17 and 18. So your body is still in puberty technically. And so you're still changing and growing. And I think adjusting to being in a new spot and having academic challenges while all of these other changes are going on is really tough. a lot of times for students. So I think the first thing is letting them know of the things that they may face, because I think that helps normalize that experience, right? And so when they do face some of these things, they say, oh, well, someone else has faced this too. I'm not alone in this. It's not just me. And I think that can kind of be a protective factor against maybe some of the doubt and some of the negative feelings that they have when embarking on this journey, especially being maybe at a predominantly white institution or being somewhere where they kind of feel like a minority, where it's like, you know, they may question, do I even belong here? And so I think that that's really important to just let them know of the things that they could see or could experience. I think in addition to that, of course, maintaining the relationships, FCE does a great job at reaching out and staying in contact. And I know that they've done even better and better throughout the years. So I think that that's really important, and encouraging the students to stay in contact with their family and friends back home, or their support systems that they've had throughout high school and throughout earlier parts of their life. I think that's really, really important. In addition to that, I think helping them and encouraging them to seek community at their school or in the surrounding areas of their school. I know that kind of having that social support where you can have that shared experience with somebody in person that's there, it can help also combat some of those emotional things that you may struggle with as a student embarking on that journey. And then the last part, which I think is really important, is about reminding them and empowering them to remember and to recognize their resilience and stay connected to their resilience, because FCE students go through a lot and will most likely go through a lot more just throughout their lives. And so staying connected and knowing that I've made it through challenging times before, I can make it through these challenges as well, I think will give them the hope and the confidence that they'll need to succeed.
Wow, thank you so much. In listening to you, it just reminds me of how FCE really stays with students all the way through.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then you got to do that as a Beyond 12 coach. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Alondra, you say that your work in Colorado is new to you. You haven't worked with victims before. It's really incredible. Appreciate that. Would you share how your time at FCE helped you prepare for something that you had never done before and your response to it?
Yeah, I think I always knew FCE would advocate for me, but they also gave me the tools and resources that helped me advocate for myself. And when I work with victims, I always try to provide them with the tools to self-advocate, knowing that, you know, if they don't get the support they need, I'll step in and help with that. Sorry, FCE taught me to see the value in all of that, and to see the value in not only self-advocacy, but in advocating for others. And I don't only do direct services, but I also do some policy work. And through that, I feel I often find myself thinking back about my community and thinking about what these potential laws would do to directly affect the most vulnerable people in the community. And this is the way that I feel like I give back to my community, kind of like how FCE gave back. And I got to witness that not only firsthand, but I benefited from all the things that FCE did. And I've learned the importance of self-care for sure. I think that in every field, self-care is so important, but especially working with.
Oops. Are you with us? Alondra, you froze up for just a minute. Okay. I never know if the freeze is just on one person's screen or if it's on everyone's screen. So for me, you froze up just for a minute. But thank you so much. Oops. Okay. So Joyce, there are a lot of organizations in EPA, ones that you are intimately familiar with, that do similar work as to FCE. What do you think differentiates FCE from those other organizations?
I I feel like I've answered this question often, and even now that I'm not at FCE, when folks find out that I was working there, or when they're looking for organizations for their children, I of course am always like, check out FCE. And the question I often get is, well, what's the difference between FCE and this organization or that organization? And my answer is always, it's the how. Formulas to get into college and the knowledge around the system and how do you get there. We can look it up and we can push our children and we can do it. But as an organization, it's really the how. And that's what I found at FCE. It's the way that FCE as an organization works with the student. It's the way that they work with the parents, and it's the way that they work with different partners to support the family. And I love how Alondra talked about being taught as a student, as a young person, to advocate for yourself. Oftentimes as young people, we hear folks say, well, you've got to get yourself out there. You've got to talk to this person and that person. But how do we do it? Many of these things are new to us. I know for me as a student, my parents were immigrants to this country. And though they wanted me to go to college, they wanted my siblings to go to college, they didn't know how. And so to have a list of things to do, but not having someone to support you and guide you and say, an SAT is this, and this is how you go about doing it, and this is how you can do it. Those were the things that really made a difference in my life and in my family's life. And that's the how that I believe is the magic that FCE brings.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Seen it very often. Thank you so much. Okay, Antoine, FCE works with students from grade 6 until they earn a bachelor's degree. And I think that's probably new since you've been there. You have also earned your master's. Can you talk about your experience as in the different expectations for an undergrad versus a grad student? And let us know if there's something else we could be doing to prepare FCE students when we know they're going for a master's. What can we do to prepare them for a graduate school experience or prep or application?
Right. Yeah. First of all, I just want to say they work with 6th graders. That's so amazing. I know it's been something that they've been doing for a while, working with middle schoolers, but it's just so cool to see the expansion. And I think with that, since we're starting younger and younger, and you'll hear me say we because I believe I'm still part of the FCE family. That family continues forever. And so as we work with the younger students, I think it's important to continue exposing them to what's out there, letting them know what opportunities are out there. I think originally for me, I didn't even know that I wanted to go to grad school. I didn't know that was an option until I dove into the field of psychology and decided to get my bachelor's in psychology. And then I said, well, what else can I do? And, what other opportunities are there? Do I have to get a doctorate or can I just get a master's, right? So I think, first of all, that exposure is important. And the younger you expose them, the more likely they are to take advantage of those opportunities and to kind of traject their path to get there. High expectations lead to high achievement. So I think in addition to that, continuing to set the bar higher and higher and further out for the young students, reminding them that the goal is not to just get to college, but it's to be successful in college, to earn a degree that they care about or that, that will help them reach the future that they want to reach. And then for the students that do want to go to grad school, I think setting the bar higher in the sense that, there's that saying, C's get degrees. And I think there's some truth to that. But unfortunately, and fortunately, for those who want to go to grad school, their grades count as well, right? And I think even more so than the grades, it's about the habits that you practice while in undergrad that'll help you be successful as an adult, but then also once you get to grad school. One big difference that I noticed for me going to grad school and the expectations that was different was that for Santa Clara and their counseling psychology program, there's certain lower level classes that you have to pass with a B or better. Meaning if you got a B minus, you're at risk and most likely will be dropped from the whole program. And so that's really like, you know, a way for them to gatekeep the career and the young people and the young professionals that are going into their career, but also of raising that expectation that, hey, you need to be here, you need to invest in your education, and you need to put in the time and the energy and work to make yourself someone who can master this information, and also be successful in that field. So that was one of the big differences that I noticed. And I think that's important to continue to inform the young students about. It's about excelling, and not settling for less.
That's huge. That's huge. I can imagine having you back to talk about that a little bit, Antoine,
Sure.
or maybe doing the one pager. Will you write the one pager on that? Because that's really important information. Appreciate that. Alondra, I remember your senior celebration speech. And in it, you talked about the way San Francisco Creek divides Palo Alto from East Palo Alto. And I remember you saying that that is always going to be part of your story, but it does not define you. And in our lives, I feel like along the stages of our lives, different things define us, right? I'm wondering now, 7 years after you gave that speech, what are some of the things that define Alondra Arias?
First, I can't believe that it's been 7 years since I gave that speech. I feel like time has honestly flown by. My internet keeps on saying it's unstable, so I hope that you guys can hear me. Fingers crossed. I think that there's a few things that define me nowadays. I think that I've become a lifelong learner, which I don't think I was back then. I didn't know that that was something that I liked, that I was passionate about. I want to go back to school and I get more degrees, which my parents do not want me to do anymore. But if I could, I would go back and get a law degree and get another master's and just continue to be in school for I don't know how long. But I think I'm done for now. I think that I don't have to go back to school to continue to learn. I learned so much from the world and from the people around me on a daily basis. Even though I'm not in school, like I said, I continue to learn new things every day. And I would also say that I love adventures. Going off to college really opened the door to the possibility of adventures that I would have never imagined embarking on. I love seeing the world beyond East Palo Alto, and I can't wait to be able to travel again and, you know, just see people, see new places, and get just hearing of people's life stories and all of that stuff, which I love to do. And while geography no longer defines me, or I don't think it does, it's not, you know, people don't know me and associate me with East Palo Alto now. It's something that I now take I appreciate so much, and it has shaped how I see and experience the world. And I'm so proud of where I come from and how far I've come. And I wouldn't be here today without all the support that I received and all of the helping hands along the way.
Great, thank you so much. You know, becoming a lifelong learner after your high school education and not considering yourself a lifelong learner at that time just says a lot about how you engaged with education and how you took advantage of the education that you had. I know that Cornell has a really unique schedule, kind of a learning environment where you learn one class at a time or you learn one subject at a time. Do you think that that contributed to hooking you as a lifelong learner?
Definitely. I loved the block plan. I cannot imagine how, like, I know I did it for grad school and I did it before college, but having that be what my undergrad was, I loved it. I mean, for 3.5 weeks, I got to do just one thing. I did it. We were in school in class for 4 hours a day, but I mean, it was just one subject, one teacher, and we were all kind of dying together, right? Because midterms were second week, and then third week you were preparing for finals week, and everybody was going through it. It wasn't like it was just me. Everybody, and we were all at the library at 1 a.m. trying to figure out how we were going to pass the next class, and we were going to be fine. We were going to do it all again in just 2 more weeks.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. Thanks so much. So I have a question for you, Antoine, and I think this comes from our audience.
Sure.
Many of the people here today know you and your brother, and remember your mother speaking at the 20th anniversary. Can you give us a quick update on Sean and Teenie?
Yeah. So just a correction, my mom's name is Teenie, but it's spelled like Teenie. And she's doing well. I don't know if she was able to join the call. She didn't have Zoom beforehand, so hopefully I can get my hands on the recording. But she's doing well. Her and my father are doing really well. They're still in East Palo Alto and loving the empty nest that they've been having for the last 10 years or so. And Sean is doing well. He's actually licensed. He finished from Santa Clara University with his master's in 2017 and received his license at the end of 2020. So he's doing really well. He's managing one of the programs at Catholic Charities as well. And he's just thriving and looking at new opportunities and new things to do with his licensure. And I should be there, before the end of the year for sure. So yeah, they're doing really well.
Great. Thanks for the update. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I had one more question to ask Joyce, although I feel like you've answered it somewhat, Joyce. It really has to do with you being a parent and how now you're seeing FCE through a new lens. So my question is this: what would you say to a family or a parent who is considering FCE for their student?
Run, do it.
Run toward.
Yeah, it's like run towards FCE and do it. I think, like I said, oftentimes I run into folks in the community and they ask me, I have a high school student, or I have a middle school student, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, go to FCE, like go sign up. And I think Josue knows this. Oftentimes, every now and then he'll get a text from me and just asking like, hey, are you guys accepting applications, or what is it looking like? Who do I send this person to? I think, like I shared before, there are many organizations out there, and I guess I'm just biased, and FCE is the one organization that I would go to first. I absolutely love that there is a middle school program. Now, if y'all want to do a middle or elementary school program, sign me up with my little ones. But my advice would definitely be to seek FCE out, learn more, and sign up.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for being out there for FCE. It's really why we are who we are today. So I have a question to any of you, all of you. Where would you like FCE to be in the next 5 years?
That's a good question. I think Joyce kind of mentioned the part about expanding to elementary. I don't know if that's too much, but I definitely don't think it is. I think that would be amazing if if we are able to expand, and reach younger and younger youth, because you kind of just bring them in at an earlier age, and then you can mold them and shape them and help them get to, where we all would like to see them to be, and ultimately a lot of times where they want to be as well, right? So I think that would be awesome if within the next 5 years we can expand the program. I would like to see FCE also, if possible. I don't know if this is within the next 5 years, but if they can expand also outside of just the East Palo Alto area and the surrounding areas, right? I know that if they can follow this model that FCE has been following, straight to the T, I think it will be very successful in other areas across the state and across the nation as well, honestly. I think that community and that extended family feel that FCE gives and the staff continues to give, I think is what has helped me be successful and has helped me to even want to continue coming back and feeding the organization as well as the community. So I think that will also be really amazing. I'm a big dreamer, so that's something else that I see for FCE.
Well, it's fun. It's fun to hear. It's really fun to hear right now. You know, we're involved in a strategic planning process, so appreciate that input and your thoughts on it. Anyone else in 5 years? Where should we be?
Well, Shelley, since you mentioned that strategic plan, since I lived through it one round, I would definitely put a plug in there. You know, if you're thinking about it, what would it look like to go into elementary school? I think if I remember correctly, Anna and I had many conversations around the time we were working together about even possibly doing starting in preschool. And being that I now work at the primary school where we work with students as young as 18 months and their families, I definitely see the benefit of that. So thank you, Anna. I think you were the first person, and I remember being like, oh no, are you sure? And now that I'm living it, now that I have children who are in that preschool age, I can say I definitely see the benefit of starting younger and younger, the benefit for the student and the benefit for the parents. So I would definitely put a plug in there.
Okay, now we have officially recorded Joyce's plug. Alondra?
Along with that, I would love post undergrad. I know that it's still a very small percentage of us, but going now, having gone through grad school, half the time I didn't really know what I was doing. I loved what I learned and the education I got, but I think it would be great to see that that follow through, or
Yeah, keep going. Okay. Good. Okay, this is out to anyone. How did FCE help you directly while you were in college? What would you like to add to that college program? So do any of you remember, like very specifically, how FCE helped you while in college?
Yeah, I remember receiving care packages right around midterms and finals time, and that was really awesome. That just helped continue to like bring up my spirits if the term had been beaten up on me, so to speak. It was really nice to just remember that people are back home that care and that want to see me thrive and succeed. And that really, I think, motivated me enough to get through all of the education that I've gone through, where it's like, I'm not just doing it for me. Let me move my own feelings aside. There's a community and there's people who've invested in me that are dependent on me to be successful, and who want to see me be successful and have helped me in that way. I think in addition to that, actually, doing the college visits, I was able to coordinate with Josue, and he would bring, seniors and juniors and other FCE students to my school. And I think just being able to be a little bit of an inspiration to them also reminded me of when I was that age, and also just kind of energized me some more to continue to be successful so that I could be there for the next bunch of kids that will come. So in an interesting way, that really was supportive to me as well, in a way of energizing and inspiring me to keep pushing forward.
That's great. Thank you. Now, a little bit related question, but what were you specifically not prepared for in your first year of college? That was a while ago, Joyce.
I remember very clearly.
I can see.
I think I was not prepared for like the culture shock at all. I went to school in Palo Alto all of my life, and when I was applying to college, one of the things that I really was looking for was a diverse community, and found myself in a community very similar to Palo Alto. And so I was like, you know what, it's okay. I can navigate this. I did it all of my life so far. I can still do that. What I wasn't prepared for was nobody knew where Tonga was. Nobody knew what a Pacific Islander student was. And so I often found myself having to explain where I came from. And one of the things I do love about the voluntary transfer program and my experience in Palo Alto is that I was amongst a diverse group of students. We all came from East Palo Alto and a diverse background, but we didn't see specific ethnicities, right? Like we were all brown children going to school in Palo Alto, and so we came together. And that was not my experience in college. And so that was shocking to me. I think that experience helped me to grow and introduced me to what real life was going to be like, what the real world is going to be like. But it definitely was something that I wasn't prepared for.
You all are shaking your head like that was your experience as well. Is that true, Alondra and Antoine? Yeah.
Go ahead, Alondra.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially for me, I went to school in Iowa, and for some reason, I really thought I was going to be okay. And then Trump ran for president, and things were not okay. I was a first generation Mexican American person living in Iowa, and all of a sudden, I was not safe. And I mean, there was no one could have prepared me for that, right? Nobody could have ever told me what I would be faced in college, even though I had gone to all these diverse schools and I was always the minority and I was always a small percentage. It quickly spiraled, and then I was in the middle of where I didn't know. It was very unknown what to do. And I remember Josue reaching out because we had been on some news coverage, which I didn't even know we were, but there was a picture, and of course I was on it because they had tagged our campus, and we had gone to remove it, and so rewritten what the kiosk said and all this stuff. And he's like, I see what, and I didn't expect anybody, to know what was going on in California. I had told my parents, I said, yeah, there's a lot of things going on where I might not be safe, but it'll be okay. And then Josue said, are you okay? I just saw that your school is going through some really bad stuff. Like, what is going on? Talk to me. And even though they couldn't have prepared for me for that, I really appreciate just having FCE check in and see that I was okay and that I was going to be fine.
Good. Some more questions are coming in, everyone. So I'm going to keep going. What has been the impact of COVID on the college plans of high schoolers and college careers of FCE students on college campuses? Anyone? Are we in touch?
And Shelley, you can also chime in on this. But thank you for this question. I know for a lot of our donors and just people who care about FCE, that's always been a big one, especially right now. And I have the distinct honor of not only working with our college students and our alums, but as well as our juniors and seniors. So going through this process alongside Shelley as our volunteer. And given that we're still in the midst of it, we have seen some shifts when it comes to students in their decision making. Of course, prior to this past fall, a lot of fear came around the election and what the election results were. So I felt there was more emphasis on the current election than even thinking of COVID first, especially with this past round of our current seniors at the moment, because we were really concerned of what the political climate is going to be looking like post-November. And it really paused and halted movement until we saw a decision made for students to feel comfortable in what they were looking at. But we have seen more students feeling more comfortable staying in California. Our current first year cohort, although students were applying to out of state, we had more students feeling more comfortable staying in California, but with the desire of leaving home, more students wanted to look at Southern California because that was far enough, but still safe enough with the pandemic and with the election. Or with the political climate. So this year, our current seniors, although those sentiments are still there, we continued the services that we provide for them and encourage them to apply to out-of-state colleges if they are really qualifying for it, or just to have some packages to negotiate when it comes to the college's financial aid offices. We are seeing more students actually have this desire of wanting to leave, and it could be, of course, being locked up at home, being at home with families, there is this itch of wanting to go and explore and feeling that living on campus might be an escape. So very excited to see where our current seniors will be deciding to attend really in the next month or so, as they're currently receiving admissions at this current moment. And then of course, we're looking at where are those bigger shifts in the academic world when it comes to college. Where are those shifts when it comes to test preparations, when it comes to those high touch services or things that colleges are looking for students and the demonstrated interest. And that is forever shifting now. And we are doing our best to be on top of it and be prepared for it. So our students, our ninth graders or 10th graders, and even our middle schoolers will be prepared for when it's their turn to apply to college.
That's great. That's a great, very, very condensed wrap up there, Josue. Appreciate that. I'm going to end with this one question. I think it's a great one to go out on. Can each of you share one of your fondest memories of FCE? So many, right?
I can go first. Oh, you can go first this time, Antoine.
Okay, sure. So for me was, I don't even know what we called this. I think it was the senior retreat. We went to San Francisco as a group, and that was just a lot of fun. I mean, I had been in San Francisco before, growing up in the Bay Area, but going with this particular group of peers and supporters, it was just a fun way to get away from just being so focused on academics and the things around college and the things that we're preparing for, to just get out and to experience something fun and new together. I remember pictures. I'm like cycling through pictures in my memory right now. I think that was one of the fondest ones. And then also, our graduation night where we say our speeches, definitely a huge night, and one of my fondest memories as well.
Thank you. Alondra?
I remember both of those with, those were some of my favorite memories I made with FCE, especially running around San Francisco, because I was always really loud and they were always trying to keep me quiet. When I was in the building, everybody was like, oh, Alondra's here. But one of my favorite was decision day, because of course I showed up and went and talked to everybody about what their decision for college was going to be, knowing that I had not yet decided what my decision was going to be. And I waited until like 7:50, maybe 7:45, and I was like, actually, I don't really know what college I'm going to. Can you guys help me in the next like 10 minutes, please? Because now I'm freaking out. Everybody has made their decision except for me, and I know that because I talked to everybody in the building already. So that's one of my favorite, and it wraps how much FCE was always there for me.
That's huge. That's huge. You guys decide. I'll trust you. That's fantastic. We had another question come in that I think is so important. I hope no one minds if we go a couple minutes over, because I really, really appreciate this question. It goes like this. When you were an FCE student, did you get enough support in the area of mental health?
I can answer this for my experience. I definitely feel like I got a lot of support around mental health. Like I shared, there were a lot of challenges that I faced in just like culture shock and not feeling connected to my college community when I left. And the support that I got just from different people at FCE, I remember Stephanie Wick calling me up and checking in to see how I was. Even had moments where she came out to Dominican to pick me up and bring me home. And remembering that during one of those long drives home, being able to talk about like, what is it really like? How are you feeling? What's the food like? Those were questions and things that I was able to talk about that my family wasn't really asking because they didn't know, right? You don't know what to ask about if you haven't been through it. And I remember my first semester wanting to come home, but having too much pride to admit it to my family. And so it was really being able to talk to Stephanie and other people in FCE that allowed me to be honest about what my experience was and how I was feeling, and went back second semester ready to take it on and say, you know what, I've got this, I can do it. So I definitely feel like I got a lot of support just around my mental health.
That's huge. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Wow. So fun. So fun to see everyone. I always love the pre-show time when we get to see friends and new folks logging in. So I can't say enough about just this hour with you. It's great to see you both. Antoine, we haven't met personally, but your name is brought up all the time at FCE, so I'm really delighted to meet you personally. And I also wanted to say hi and do a quick introduction of our 6-month new executive director. And Maria, over the last 6 months, I have heard you many times say, I wish I had had an FCE when I was growing up and applying to college and getting through college, and but you did it all on your own. And everyone, Maria's been with us for 6 months. It's been such a pleasure, and you did all of the work on your own, and you have led major teams as a senior leadership team in higher education circles. And now you get to bring that to FCE. So we have you, even though you didn't have us way back when, and we're absolutely delighted. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Maria de los Angeles Crummett.
Shelley, thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. And I can only reiterate I feel like I've come back to my roots. What attracted me to FCE was this powerful mission, the mission that our 3 extraordinary alumni have talked about, and that FCE, this commitment to work with students of color from East Palo Alto and similar communities to graduate from a 4-year institution of higher education. The impact of that 4-year degree might take you 5 or 6 years. It took me 5 years to get my undergraduate degree, but the impact of that, we see it right here. Our 3 alumni, Alondra, Antoine, Joyce, my gosh, you have said it all. Just powerful stories of the way in which FCE has impacted your ability, not just academically, and clearly you were all extraordinary in your undergraduate education, but clearly you have grown, you have blossomed, you have thrived. You are members of a community that you are all giving back to. And that is, to me, the power of FCE, that your stories are all about giving back to your communities, your sense of self, your sense of I am, yes, who I am, but I have been able to succeed because of my community, because of FCE as part of that community. So I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be a part of FCE, because I know that without FCE, the journey is much harder. It's much harder, and it is one that is places so much emphasis on the individual. But the community, that's what we're all about. So thank you so much, Shelley. I want to thank you for being just an extraordinary contributor to FCE as well. You pulled together this panel, you know the students so well, you participate, and this is part of who you are. So I want to thank you very much, Shelley, for all that you do for FCE, all the hats that you wear for us, board member, strategic planning committee, volunteer. My gosh, you say it all and are just a real testament to the power of what you do and how you shape young lives. And thank you, Josue. My gosh, Josue, you have been a part of FCE for 7 years now, and clearly you are still noted for the work that you have done and continue to do for FCE. Whether it be in College Bound or College Success, you are certainly continue on with a very extraordinary mission. Thank you to all of those who are here. My gosh, how wonderful to have such a wonderful group of donors, participants, board members. We also have other FCE members in addition to Josue. Behind the scenes, you haven't seen B. Michael, but B. Michael, thank you so much. You've done such a great job pulling this all together. Asra, you are here as well. Thank you so much for all the work that you do with College Bound. We couldn't do this without the support of an incredible FCE staff. They are working under the most extraordinarily difficult conditions this past year, continue to work with joy and with eagerness because it's all about the students. And that's what we have shared here today. Don't forget, we've got additional events, monthly events, coming up April, May, and June. So stay tuned. You will be getting an email from B. Michael inviting you to another extraordinary event around our programs, around our alumni. There's so much that we're doing that we'd like to showcase. And don't forget, we're going to have a little survey right after this. And please give us your feedback. We want to make sure that we are meeting your needs as well as participants in FCE, as lifelong supporters. Many of you have been with FCE since its beginning. We're celebrating 25 years now, and we see our strong supporters and all of you that are here and recognize this mission. And I have to have a little shout out to Anna. Anna, thank you so much. I'm following in your footsteps, and you have been such a big support. So Anna Warren, one of our previous executive directors. And with that, I want to say thank you again to all of you for your contributions, and wish that you have a wonderful Sunday evening. And thank you for spending a part of it with us.
Right.